just wanted to show you this little trick. When I take the strings off my guitar, for whatever reason, work on the neck, whatever, I used to use a magnet to keep the strings together, but I changed things around a little bit so I don't have anything steel really to stick the magnet on. So I've been using silly putty to keep the strings together. The great thing about it is it does keep them together. When you're ready, you don't have to peel it apart and try to unstick it from the strings. It's non-stick. You just pull it out, and it'll straighten out any kinks in your strings on the way back. Oh, there is a little bit there. Okay. But it does. Generally, it works really well, keeping the strings together and out of your way. And then when you're done, just zip it through. Also good for holding batteries when you're testing batteries. You know, you want them to stay put. And anything else you want to stay put. When you're soldering, you can stick little pieces of circuit board into it, you know, and it's great stuff, silly putty. I got the big one. Yeah. Big putty. So I'm going to put the strings back now. I've got the nut back on. I took it off to rearrange the shims there a little bit. I had it, I've got it shimmed on both sides, but it needed some adjustment. It was too low on the 6-string side and too high on the 1st string side. So now here I'm putting the strings back into the Floyd Rose saddles. But I want to show you something. When you put a string in, bend it slightly at the end, okay, and insert it into the saddle. Now push, leave yourself enough slack in the string to push. Let's see if I can get this around here a little better. To push that way, push the string that way, so that it creates a little resistance here and a little bit of a hump. That way you know you've got it seated well, the string seated at the end of the string touching the bottom of the saddle. Then tighten it, and only tighten it until you feel it stop. That's it. I'm using this over here, speed winder, because when you take your guitar apart a lot, for whatever reason, maintenance, general maintenance anyway, you'll have to, but this is a whole lot faster than doing it by the winder type thing, and it's impossibly faster than doing it by hand. So you might want to invest in one of those. I think mine was $30. I've had it 5 years now, and it's I think it's Ernie Ball power peg. Ernie Ball power peg. Right back to the strings here at the saddle. These were pre-bent, of course. Into the saddle and push backward, hold it, and tighten just till it stops. And the next thing is finding my fourth string. Where is it? Way over here. All right. There are some other things I want to point out here. I'm going to reattach the fourth string now. Okay, I need a little bit more slack on this end. Leave yourself very little slack, just about 1.5 to 2 winds around the tuning peg. Reason for that is the less slack you have around the peg, okay, those windings are creating slack in the string. The less you have, the less string stretching you're going to do. You're going to do maybe 10 seconds of string stretching with a 1 or 1.5 winds around the peg. You'll see what I mean. Stretch it. Back up the pitch. Stretch it. That's it. No more stretching. That's the end of the stretching. Also, it's a big help to me to put the ball ends of the strings, okay, onto your tuning pegs. Reason is, you won't need to cut them, for one thing, and you've got the other end free, which is already cut, but you've got a nice anchor there, and you really don't need the ball ends down here for any reason, so just forget about them. Yeah. Put them up there on the tuning pegs. Okay, third string in place. Now about string stretching, I spent a lot of time stretching strings when I had more than a few windings on my tuning pegs. Yeah, you don't want to do that. It's going to hold with 1 to 2 wraps anyway, with the ball there especially as an anchor, but also on this guitar, this is a Floyd Rose, so they're going to be locked down here as well. So I just put that one on. Now that one has about 2.5 windings, I guess, almost 2 windings. Now I'll stretch it, and it's not it's a long duration stretch each time you stretch. Keep it about 5 seconds. Okay, that dropped in pitch. Back up the pitch. Oop. Slightly drop, okay. All right, this is my third stretch for this string now. And that's it. That's it. I used to spend a lot of time stretching strings. That's a little bit, did drop slightly. And anytime you loosen a string, no matter how little you've loosened it, when you tune back up, you're going to have some drop in pitch. You're going to have to stretch again. Every time you undo your strings from your tuning pegs, take them off for some reason, put them back on, you're going to have to stretch them again. Even though they use strings, is what I'm saying. So it doesn't have to do with how new they are. It has to do with how many times they're wrapped around the peg. I can tell you that from experience. My second string here has a kink in it. I don't know if I ought to keep it on anyway, but I'm going to. I know I'm way off there, but right now that's not important. So about 1.5 windings per string is good. You don't need more windings. They're not going to go anywhere. So putting my first string back in. Shoot. No, I didn't have it anchored very well. I knew it when I pinched it back together there into the saddle, but I thought I could get away with it. All right. Sometimes I need to use pliers to turn the string, to rotate the string on its axis, to get it into the saddle. Okay, that's good. Got it that time. All right, let's see how far off I am. All right, let's try some stretching. Yeah. That's because I took it off of the post, or almost off of the post. I'm using the first string as a reference note. This is all coming from here. Okay, that's happened before too. in this case, I guess it's not coming from there. Oh, coming from the other end. Some of the windings have come off, I guess. I've taken these off just one too many times. Yeah, but I can strip off some of the end here and reinsert that string, I think, if I've got enough slack. I've got some breakage up there, so I will try it. So what I'm doing here is cutting off the end and reintroducing a bend right there. And get back in there. That's it. Now this break up here at the top might have some problems. I don't know. No, okay, that's only because of the bend, the kink in the from securing the string. So let's go through that again. String stretching. Yeah, that's good. Next string. Good. Just slightly. Now, when I was wrapping the strings 3 times around the first 3 and then 5 to 6 times around the other 3, I'd be stretching strings forever. I don't know how long, just a long time. I didn't actually count it. Okay, no more stretching there. No, none there. Okay, good. I wish I had better tuners. These skip as you're turning them. I do not like that. Okay, so there's that much. Anyway, all right, I'm going to reassemble the tone vise addition to the Floyd Rose nut, a little bit at a time. There are a lot of pieces here, but they are necessary and very functional. This is the tone vise nut plate clamping system. Let's see what that's for. As soon as I find the right wrench here. Okay, this is how I put them together. Tension rod, plate, and spring underneath. Conical spring. It's a variable cone, so it's smaller at one end and larger on the other end. Put the larger end into the plate. That's what you want. So we'll do all the plates first. So it's tension rod, plate, get the two springs together here. Ooh, I don't like when that happens. They can be miserable to separate. Okay, spring onto the plate. And putting them all together like this and then sticking them into the end of your wrench is much faster, much more convenient. Into your socket wrench. So get these in there just till they stop. Plate, tension rod. Check something. Yep, that's moving. Okay. One of these was manufactured too large, so I had to shave down both sides on this, but it's working fine now. Now, at this point, I still am, I guess, testing out using little O-rings or gaskets on these to keep the rattle noise down that they can produce occasionally when you're playing, especially if you're very physical with your guitar. But I've been trying this out, and I haven't decided how it works yet, how well it works. Just putting I made these O-rings myself from surgical tubing. I couldn't find any O-rings small enough. And I just dropped that. That means I have to stop the video. Yes, I guess you could call this a day in the life of an aspiring guitar technician. So I have dropped a piece, and all of those components to the tone vise are extremely important. Missing one won't work. So missing one component. I've got to find out what I dropped. And thankfully, there it is. It was one of the springs. So, I've got the spring back, thankfully. That goes into the lever, where the screw and the washer go in as well. Now on this one, apparently I'm not going to have a gasket on it because I can't find it. A black rug with black parts don't go together very well. Now on some of these Floyd Rose units, a washer is included for the screw. And some don't include the washer. The reason for that is the length of the screw. On the longer screws, the washer is needed. I believe it's the longer screws, anyway. So, put it together like that. Okay, and on to that assembly. And this only holds this triplet piece together. It doesn't have anything to do with the clamps themselves, so don't tighten it, just snug it up. That's all. And on this one, I'm going to have that little gasket. Looks ugly, but might be repositionable in this stack tool. I'm not sure, but I am testing that out because it does dampen down the vibrations. Now, there's my other screw and washer and gasket. Okay. They tend to run around here and get lost. And lots of times they get stuck to that magnetic dish. Okay. You want these to be loose, of course. Okay. Now I have a preferable position for these levers, so I'm going to use that position. Okay. Yeah, it looks weird, but it's practical because it allows this full release. When you press these, put pressure on these plates like this with the levers, you shouldn't get any variation in the pitch of your string as you're pushing down on it. If you do, the angle of the string slope across the nut here needs to be changed. You can mess with that by messing with the string retainer here, moving it up or moving it down to change the angle there. But you want that angle so that both sides of the nut, the string is touching both sides of the nut, on back and front. Now, what else? This is a replacement arm. This isn't the arm that came with this guitar. Because the one that came with the guitar, the threads wore in, I guess, four or 5 months of use. So I found out, going hunting online for solutions, that it was the tone arm and the collar. It was the collar that was the tone arm as well as the collar were the culprit, because this replacement arm by Schaller of GmbH in Germany, Schaller GmbH of Germany, sorry. This is a modified tone arm, and I don't know about the collar itself, but the tone arm is modified. It has a small, I'll show it to you. Inside here, there are two small nipples here that protrude from this, okay, from this bar. I don't know if you can see that, but they're side by side there, right here, here and here, no, here and here. Anyway, they pinch the top of this assembly here when they're tightened down, and apparently that they don't wear. Well, they do. I shouldn't say that. I did have one that wore out over a long period of time, a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, but they stay put. The original arm, after a few uses, especially a few dive bombs, it would start to swing back and forth like this because it had loosened up, okay, at this point. So it was like this, and I had to keep tightening it up, grabbing it, tightening it back up, like that, and it would loosen again. This stays put. I just tightened it now. I probably won't have to tighten that, just snug it back up again for a month. Probably a month. Maybe 3 weeks, but that's the difference. in this arm. It is a, they have different variations of this arm. You've got to get the right one to fit the right Floyd Rose base plate, and the assembly itself. The assembly, base plate attachment assembly comes with the arm. Because on your Floyd Rose, when you take the arm off, I'll show you that too. This piece here is not part of this base plate. This is a separately screwed on piece, which was good thinking on whoever thought that up. Instead of building this right into the base plate, they made it separate so that it can be replaced when it wears, that part wears. Otherwise, you'd have to replace the whole base plate. All right. Beautiful. I like my tone arm whammy bar snug at all times. It can be a pain to push it around here and there at times, but I just cannot get used to it swinging. I've tried. Okay, and with the Floyd Rose locking nut system, as well as the additional tone vise levers, your guitar will not go out of tune like the old Fender Strats used to when you do a whammy dive bomb. Well, now that did slightly, I'm sorry. That's as a general rule, it won't. I didn't test the strings after a whammy bar use. That's what happened. Okay. Yeah, usually one or two dive bombs works out the tuning keys. See, now that'll stay in tune until I do something to it, take it apart or whatever. I can actually pick the thing up by the tone arm. I can pick it up by the tone arm, shake it up and down as many times as I can do before I decide it's stupid and get tired. It stays put, stays in tune. I often work on my neck when I'm doing something like adding these fret markers or whatever, just by relaxing the strings. If I have some fret, if I want to run some number 4 steel wool over the frets, I'll just do this. Once in a while, just take the tension off the strings. Okay, that might happen. Little changes in pitch. For the first few times you use the whammy, but the strings eventually get broken in. After not too many times of whammy bar usage. Maybe 3 or 4 total. Well, I didn't have it in perfect tune to begin with, but you can see that's relatively the same tune. Now you can hear this rattle down here. I hear a rattle. The rattle sounds like it's coming from here, but the sound is transmitted from the nut to this area, and this is reflecting it, I suppose. The rattle, that's coming from the tone vise. There we go. See, now it's gone. Unfortunately, that's why I'm experimenting with this. These little rubber O-rings that I made to try to dampen out that sound, and it does to a degree. That one doesn't have one. This one does. I think this one did, but that doesn't, and that's going to rattle. And the sound's transmitted down here. It's weird. So they give you some Teflon grease to put on these, to put on the tension rods, and it does help a little bit, but there's still just simply too much slack that has not yet been taken up somehow. I had an idea last week if they could sort of rubberize the insides of these lever collars here. That might snug them up, but I might do that myself. So, there we go. Now, let's see. I think I've covered everything. No, not quite. Okay. As far as spring rattle goes, a lot of people, can hear the buzzing of the tremolo springs in the back of the guitar. I just put a couple of electronic heat shrink wrap on the springs of the correct size, and just shrunk it on there, and no more noise. These fret markers are not the original. The original is still there, but I don't like the small circular fret markers. I just don't see them as well. So I put these on, and I created my own pattern here, which I like because it references out this section a little better, from this one. It just tells me something as I go up 9th, 12th fret, okay, and then the notes get higher and higher as you go up. So that's why I made these larger and larger toward the end. But it's just a design to break things up for you. So it makes things easier and makes you quicker. Actually quicker at making changes on the fretboard when you're playing. It's just an easy visualization. It's just instant. Up this section, big blocks, this one, thinner blocks must be the second octave from the 12th fret. So, okay, I'm sorry, I've got to go. I haven't taken my meds today. Anyway, one more thing. I did want to show you this. I'm joking about the meds, by the way. This neck was more like a C shape before I attacked it with some sanding. I sanded it down to thin it down because I've got small hands. I mean, really short fingers. Watch this. Okay, measuring from this crease in my wrist here, 18.5 centimeters. Okay, that's okay, 7 inches from here. It's 2 and, let's see, 7/8. 2 and 7/8 inches, not even quite 3. So I had to modify the guitar. They do make short scale guitars of different lengths, but I didn't know it at the time when I bought this, and this will be probably my only guitar for the rest of my life. So I thinned it down and finished it with, at first, just some oil and unfinished necks. I'm thinking of a 4 necks loop in Computer Basic. The necks are much faster when they're dry bare wood, with maybe some baby powder. In fact, that's why I put the baby powder down there with the little white scrubby, which is a very fine abrasive pad, and I just rub the powder into the neck, and after enough times of doing that, it creates its own gloss, slight gloss, but it's not like the lacquered gloss. It's not sticky at all. this feels like almost like bare wood, except that it's as fast as the bare wood was, except that now I can feel it's non-porous. The bare wood was slightly porous, and I could feel the difference. But this is good. This neck is good this way. What else here? I did reverse this so that the lead position is here. And it's not because Eddie did it that way. It's because, well, Eddie did it that way because when he was finger tapping, he'd keep slapping the... what is this called now? This is a... honest to God, I can't think of the name of it. It's a switch. 3-way toggle switch. He kept knocking it back into the neck pickup position when he'd go to do this, and then he'd have to kick it back up to the lead position to play the song. So he decided, what the hell, I'll just reverse the whole thing. Instead of lead being here, it's now up here. So I guess he was hitting it this way, is what it was, like that, to do the finger tapping. So he just put this as the lead position, just turn it around, that's all. What else? Of course, I did put the strap locks on, because the first day I played this guitar, the strap I was using slipped off from back here. And I said, no, I've had that happen before. I'm not having it happen with this guitar. So I got the string locks, strap locks. I think they're Dunlop. And they've never come off unless I take them off. They don't come off. They don't come off unless you make them come off. So what else have I done here to this? I scalloped out the fretboard because I had done a couple of fret jobs, complete fret jobs on this, not replacing the frets, but I did grind them down to level them out and crown them and then polish them. But I had to do it a couple of times because these are cheapy nickel alloy frets. And they wore down after a couple of years, you know, after actually much less than a couple of years, I started noticing some wear. But I decided, what the heck, I'll do a fret job, but I've done a couple of them, and that now means that now the frets are closer to the wood. And the strings are going to be close, tops of the frets are closer to the wood. The strings will be closer to the wood, and so will my skin on my fingers. So I kept getting locked up here by hitting the wood when I do a bend. So I learned how to scallop these, and it was my first scallop job, and it came out perfectly. The thing about this type of job is it's one of those slow progress jobs where you figure things, it's slow enough that you can figure things out as you go. And shaping these frets, each fret, so that they all match, believe it or not. You don't have to take a course in how to do that. You just learn it as you go because you can see what you're doing. A lot of people use a file to scallop out their frets, and that's fine, I guess, for the first couple of scrapes across with a file. But other than that, use some coarse sandpaper, roll it up, use some coarse sandpaper to go across the frets this way and scallop them out. Then some fine sandpaper, and then maybe some oil or I put some Minwax tongue oil finish after I was done, just to seal up the wood so it felt slick. Now it feels just like the back. So I did that once, and I realized I still needed to do another, sorry, I'm preoccupied here. I needed to do another fret job over time, okay? Maybe I didn't do the first one well enough. I am not sure on that, but I ended up having to do another fret job, and so therefore ground off some more of the tops of the frets, bringing them closer to the wood, bringing my fingers closer to the wood and getting stuck, jammed up here. So I did some more scalloping, And I guess you can do that indefinitely until, well, almost until you reach the bottom of the fret anyway, or halfway to the bottom of the fret. Then things are going to just fall out. What else? I was noticing something. I'll show this to you. The other day, I'm doing string bends. You know, practicing a couple of over and over and over. But I'll do this, I'll speed it up here. All of a sudden I hear and I feel that noise, that scratch. And I'm thinking, oh no, come on. Don't tell me I've got to do another fret job or polish off the frets. But I look at the fret and there's nothing there. There's nothing wrong with it. So I move to another fret. But for a couple of years, I thought I was screwing the frets up. But no, it's going to happen here now. Hear it? The only thing left that's possible, the fret is smooth, is the string. Well, I thought it might be my calluses, okay? But I used different fingers, turning my fingers this way so the callus wouldn't touch, and it was still there. So I decided it wasn't the callus. Now let's go back up here. See that? It's healed itself. It's not scraping anymore. Maybe it was down here that I started, but it's not scraping anymore. But it will. Now that I don't have an answer to, other than that it's got to be the string. But the string feels fine. So it's got to be some heat relationship to the metal. But if anyone has a solution to that, or you know why it happens and how to stop it, if it's possible, or just how to deal with it, would be fine. Please let me know. Leave a comment here. So I hope this video wasn't too boring, so that you don't go out and commit, well, crimes or something. Anyway, I wanted to cover some discoveries that I made on the way to becoming a guitar technician. It's been about 3 years now, I guess, since I've had the guitar, maybe 4 years. But it was my first project guitar, well, my second guitar ever, or third guitar ever, I guess. But the other two I didn't keep very long. But this is my first more serious guitar. It's an EVH Wolfgang. EVH Wolfgang Standard, which is their lowest in the line of EVH Wolfgangs. There's the EVH Special and the EVH USA and the EVH Standard. And this is the Standard. This is made in Indonesia. So parts, as you can imagine, were not as good as they could be. The Floyd Rose, almost all the parts on the Floyd Rose bridge wore out. Okay, the saddles, the insert blocks expanded because they were made of zinc and they got caught in the saddle. I couldn't get them out. I had to pound them out with a hammer and a screwdriver that I ruined doing this. But this, I saved the saddle. I eventually decided I'm going to change all these parts out, as many as I can, from zinc to hardened steel or titanium. So I got new saddles, hardened steel, titanium lockdown screws, and hardened steel No, these aren't hardened steel. These are, I don't remember what these tuners are. Oh, yeah. They're not zinc. I changed them out for, I guess it's steel. Anyway, because they were so soft that they were getting stripped in the holes here. And I found, I inspected it very closely with one of my good friends here. Okay, and I found that threads on the inside of this whale tail piece here were fine. It was the screws, it was the threads on the screws that wore. So those were zinc too. No more. And the string lock screws are also hardened steel. Replace, if you buy, this came with an EVH Special, Floyd Rose Special, I think it was called. Let's make sure. EVH Floyd Rose Special, yeah. But the guitar isn't the special. The guitar is a standard, so that's a little tricky. Maybe they did that intentionally, do you think? So this is a Floyd Rose Special, which is made with cheap parts. It has the same function as any other level of the Floyd Rose tremolos. It's just the ingredients that are important. So as you get the special, change it all out, a little at a time. The parts are easy to find online. I changed the insert blocks out from zinc to titanium. I found it was a lower grade titanium because they still got marked by the strings. And this one here actually slightly expanded and got stuck in there, not too badly stuck over time. But it did. I had to pound it out again. And what I did was I shaved the sides down with my trusty little rotary tool and a cutting blade or sanding blade. So they don't get stuck anymore. There's just enough room so they won't get stuck. But you also learn over time how much pressure to put on these things, these blocks. You can only put a certain amount of pressure before they begin to expand. Then again, you don't want your string slipping out. So over time, you'll get the feel of how tight you need to go. I thought of getting a torque wrench for this, but it's actually such a low torque range that I couldn't find a wrench that would fit it in that range. But you'll get the feel of it over time. Though I think maybe a bicycle repair kit might have a torque wrench that could measure the pressure here, or the torque on the screw. But you learn that over time. You learn it by stripping the screws out on the string lock screws, or ballooning out the insert clamp blocks here. They clamp the string into the saddle. So the string lock screw contacts the back of the insert block, puts pressure on the insert block, which puts pressure on the string against the saddle, which holds it in place. But eventually these will strip out, so replace them with hardened steel. What other parts here did I change out? Nothing, I guess that's it. The base plate is the original. This is important. This is the original base plate. It doesn't need to be swapped out. It is hardened steel. So it'll take all these parts, in exchange of all these parts, it won't wear out the way the parts do. So the base plates are all the same on all the grades of Floyd Rose, which is great. So you can just swap out for parts instead of the whole thing. So the Floyd Rose Special base plate is the same as any of the other Floyd Rose base plates as far as that goes. I did swap out the block from a titanium block, a zinc block, to a brass block. And that is real brass. I drilled it, I put a couple of holes in it, test holes in it on the side. But did it make a difference? Not that I can tell. It feels a little bit heavier on using the whammy bar. Hard to tell. I thought I noticed a slight difference at first, but it was so slight it doesn't matter, believe me. No, you'll get more resistance or less resistance just by the springs back here, moving the springs, changing the pitch on the Floyd Rose. But then of course this is the D-Tuna, which is beautiful. It's so simple and it works in an instant. I believe it's an Eddie Van Halen patent, but I think he bought it from someone else, because I looked the patent up and it's not his name on the patent. So he probably bought that, the patent for this, but it's ingenious. There's nothing to it. That's it. Just a little bit of a slope here, so that the bottom of the screw can gradually slide from the top to nothing. Doesn't even hit the bottom of this. So what changes is the pitch of the saddles themselves, because they're on pivots here. Okay, that's all I can think of. So I hope that you learned something here to save you some time of having to get it figured. Having to take the time to figure it out was, well, it was great, because that's my thing. That's what I like to do. I do that stuff, that's all. But it is time consuming to learn how to do something technical like this that you don't know how to do. Now I understand my guitar a lot better than I did before. So I have a far deeper appreciation for its parts and as a whole. I did, there's always one more thing, I'm afraid. Okay, I did shave this down. This was body curved right here, but I've got short arms and I needed to get in a little closer. So I shaved that down, and I didn't finish it off well. I just finished it off smoothly enough so that I don't get splinters. But it served a function, brought me in a little closer here. So when I first got the guitar, of course, I was polishing it all the time. I put a fingerprint on it and they freak out. But after having done something like this, I realized guitars don't really need polish. They just need to be maybe cleaned once in a while, lubricated in the right spots once in a while. Also back here, I did the same thing, because I've got a gut. Okay, but it's all about functionality, and if you can really play guitar, these things will become important to you. I'm not saying I can really play guitar, but I can really play guitar. I'm an Eddie Van Halen copy artist, but it becomes necessary to find these things out if that's what you want to do, and that was my original motivation for buying the guitar. I was a drummer, about 20-25 years of drumming, and I decided I don't want to do it anymore, and I bought a guitar. Not this one, a couple of guitars ago, a couple of junk guitars that I had. But that's what I wanted to do. But I learned along the way, it's not an easy thing if the guitar isn't set up right. In fact, it can be an impossible thing to do. To play like Eddie Van Halen would be impossible to do on a stock off-the-shelf guitar, or mail-ordered, or a guitar store, doesn't matter. He got to be able to do what he did on guitar because he made adjustments to the thing so that it would allow him to do the things he did, like, the tapping very close in, close to the frets. What I mean is you bringing your fingers in close to the frets so you get more speed by setting the action down as low as it'll go. So one thing. And then nearly flattening out the neck so that the distance here all across the fretboard is fairly even, okay? It does dip slightly in the middle, like it really should, but mine is very slightly. It has to be measured rather than seen. But I did discover that, hey, that's why he could do the things he did on the guitar, other than his natural talent. But he made the guitar allow him to do odd things that most people don't do, although it'll tweak by tweaking the thing. Shaving down some of these frets at the end here slightly more than the other frets will allow you a deeper bend. That was another aspect. But in order to do some of the fast changes he did with the tapping, you've got to have the strings close to the frets. You can tell by the sound in his playing. In fact, I picked up a lot of hints from the sound of his strings rebounding after, okay, the note. You could tell sometimes there'd be a little harmonic that pops out in there when he switches from one position to another. And believe it or not, you don't get that harmonic unless the strings are a certain height from the fretboard. Those are the kinds of things I'm talking about. Little things like that. So, you can hear not only the note, but what comes after the note, the fall off, the decay, and how it decays. That depends on the relationship of the string to the frets. You'll find it out over time, with experience. So I always have been an advocate of buying the best when it comes to two things, okay? Guitars, electric guitars, and telescopes. Buy the best you can possibly afford, because you're going to be, the more you pay, the less discouraged, less opportunities for discouragement you're going to come across. A kid buying a new guitar, getting a new guitar for Christmas, they usually get, we know, the junk guitars, $200, $300. But some of them can be adjusted. Okay, I consider this a junk guitar. Not quite as bad as most, but because it's the standard, EVH standard. But if you tweak it and you do the things you need to do to get it to operate and function properly, what happens when kids get a raw guitar, off-the-shelf guitar, it's not set up properly. The factory, they put the body together, the neck to the body, the electronics in, and put the strings on the guitar. They don't do a setup for you. A setup is something that comes afterwards. It should come with any guitar purchase. Either have someone do a setup for you or learn how to do it yourself. But it's going to matter, and you're going to know the difference, and you'll never go back to a standard stock off-the-shelf guitar setup again. By the way, as far as polishing frets goes, the higher the gloss, the more mirror-like they are, the more responsive they will be when they hit the fret. I used to think that people polishing their frets were just doing it for aesthetics, but it's not aesthetics. The higher the shine on the fret, that means the flatter the surface is. So the flatter the surface, the more light it reflects. A mirror surface is a very flat surface. So I'd like to do a video of some of my playing, but I'm not in a great position to make a music video. I'll show you one more thing. I discovered that I needed my guitar to hang more like this than it was hanging originally. So I put a couple of large washers taped a couple of really big honking washers here with some black duct tape to my strap to add a little bit of a counterweight there. And I really can't think of anything else to go over, except that the tuners, I did mention it earlier, the tuners on at least the EVH Wolfgang standard suck. They just barely work. They move your string and allow the string to wrap around the post, but they're not smooth. And I have felt some smooth Grover tuners in my time, and they are like butter. This is like 2-year-old peanut butter, I guess, as far as the smoothness goes. When you're setting intonation, it'll become a bitch to try to tune these things. So I would go with a swap out other tuners as well. I believe that's it. I'm getting a little bit on the hungry side. So, okay. I hope that was informational.